Well, Honorable Kweku Ricketts Hagan is Member of Parliament for Cape Coastal. He's a former Deputy Minister for Finance, Deputy Minister for Trade, so Trade and Industry. So a lot of what we are saying falls right under, because when you do 24-hour economy, most of the industries go under Trade and Industry. And then whatever comes out of it goes into finance. And then, of course, the economy is largely involved. Thank you once again for making time.
Thank you.
Well, first, let's start with your own take on the concept. And I'm sure this is a concept that is very much familiar. You are very much familiar with because of the time spent in the UK and everything. The 24-hour thing, with your understanding, how does it work?
Thank you very much, Sana, and good morning to your listeners and those who are able to see us. I was actually shocked when I heard Dr. Bawumia basically poo-pooing or rubbishing the idea of 24-hour economy. And I was trying to think, I just don't want to just dismiss people. I was just trying to think that somebody of Dr. Bawumia'S supposed exposure. I mean, he lived in the UK, because I know he went to school somewhere in the UK. He lived in Canada. I believe he studied and taught or did some research work in these places. These are the places that, if you want an example of what 24-hour economy is, the place is littered with that kind of, concept or economic strategy.
The UK and Canada.
UK and Canada.
Okay.
These are just two out of, that's where he lived. And these are the, part of the Western world where these things are pretty much common. And for somebody, and as when you started, you did say, I lived in the UK. I lived in the UK and I also lived in the United States.
Okay.
And I also spent some time in Italy and Spain.
Oh, okay.
For family connections. And I have seen firsthand what 24-hour economy is. And I have often thought that why is 24-hour economy not possible in Ghana? I mean, among other thoughts. We travel to have an exposure, to be able to see things that people are doing that perhaps we can do to also improve, our economic lives. Okay. And among the things I've been thinking about for years is, why can't we have, a 24-hour economy in Ghana? And for President Mahama to come up with this idea, especially in the times that we are in, to be honest with you, is one of the most fantastic visions to actually resolve problems that we have in this country at the moment. And I, Senna, will be happy if I get the opportunity and NDC gets elected, or NDC comes up to power with President Mahama as our president. I will be happy to work closely with the president to develop this economic strategy, this idea. Because if we are going to get out of the economic mess that has been created by Akufo-Addo Bawumia, these are the kind of innovations that we need. If somebody should ask anybody in leadership at the moment in this country, that the economic mess that we are in at the moment, what is it that any government or anybody will come tomorrow and do differently for us to get out of this mess? This is it. 24-hour economy.
So put the economy to work.
Yes. And for Dr. Bawumia not to understand that, it doesn't surprise me though. It's just mind-boggling. I'm talking about his background. He's an economist and all that, and not to see it. It just surprises me. We all studied economics. The economic schools will tell you about 24 hours. If you go to business school, these things are there. So, but you see, I've been saying a lot about Dr. Bawumia, maybe silently. So maybe people have not paid attention. Most of the time in this country, we listen to noise that those who are coming up with practical, good things to do are not listened to. We listen to the noise, and that is what Dr. Bawumia made his name out of.
Noise.
Yes. Dr. Bawumia was able to make so much noise. He figured Ghana out. That Ghana is a country that noise gives you fame.
Noise gives you fame.
Fame in
But
Ghana.
I was talking about economic issues.
The more noise you make, then you make fame. He also realized that we are not deep in examining things that people say. Therefore, you can say anything in this country and get away with it. You can give economic lectures at town halls and all that, say the things you want in economics. Most of it don't make sense, but then people will call you an economic messiah and all that. And I have said in your studio in many places that Bawumia is a theoretical economist. He's not a practitioner. Let me draw you an analogy of who Dr. Bawumia is. And then I will follow with this. If I'm to describe Dr. Bawumia is somebody who has the capacity, or somebody who is capable of collecting data, plotting graphs, but cannot interpret them.
Collecting data.
Yes, he collects data, he plots graphs, but he cannot actually interpret the things that the data nor the graphs. So basically, he is an economic researcher, not an economic manager.
A researcher, not a manager.
Not an economic manager. That's who Dr. Bawumia is. Gather the data, plot the graphs, but he needs somebody else to do the interpretation, not him, because he can't interpret it. And with all due respect to researchers, which this economy needs. But you see, I can also draw. It's like an accountant. If a company employs an accountant, the accountant's job is to prepare accounts. Do the balance sheet, the income statement, and what have you. Who does he do it for? He does it for the manager.
Okay.
Who will do the interpretation of what those account data mean to the business? To be able to come up with practical policies that will grow the business based on the data that he's been given. And that's pretty much what Dr. Bawumia is. He is in a business, he will be an accountant to the manager, not the manager himself. So listen to the description again. I said Dr. Bawumia is capable or has the capacity to collect data, make graphs out of that data, but he's not able to interpret them. He is an economic researcher in that sense, but not an economic manager. It is not surprising, therefore, that Dr. Bawumia has failed woefully in managing Ghana's economy as the chairman of the economic management?
Two things, though. First, you're talking about a former deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana. And one of the things they have applauded him for is the devaluation of the CD or redenomination. And then
they applauded you for devaluation.
Redenomination, okay. They called it redenomination of the CD.
Yes.
And he's also said publicly that he has not had the control that he requires to be able to do the job that he feels he is capable of doing. That actually the economy has not been in his hands. Have you taken note of all those before reaching the conclusion you reached?
That is the more reason. I mean, the redenomination in Bank of Ghana itself was a disaster anyway. Part of the problems we are facing, I've made this known, part of the problems we are facing today with our currency is a legacy of that redenomination. But then, precisely for the reason that I have given you of who Dr. Bawumia is the reason why Dr. Bawumia should not be allowed to become president. Because Dr. Bawumia, as I've said again, is an economic researcher. He is not a manager. Therefore, even that job that he did on Nana Akufo-Addo, you see, the problem with this administration is that Nana Akufo-Addo came and basically told us that, look, I know nothing about the economy, but I've got somebody that I can work with, that if the two of us work together, I'll put all the economics in this. So, Doctor, if we had listened, as I said, there's a lot of noise, we don't listen. If we have listened to Nana Akufo-Addo well, and anybody had taken a much deeper look at Bawumia, that ticket should have failed.
Okay.
Because the president told us, I know nothing about the economy. So, hey, if your economy messes up, blame it on Bawumia. In fact, yesterday I heard, was it yesterday or the day before, the former chairman, Hinin To or whatever,
former general secretary.
Yes, when Bawumia was presented to the party, he was not a member of the party. And if you are not a member, you cannot actually be on such a ticket. What Nana Akufo-Addo told them is that, yes, I know this guy is not a member of the party, but can you overlook that? And the reason why I want you to overlook that is that this is the guy who has the requisite knowledge to manage this economy. Something you know I am not capable of. So the disastrous economy, the monumental failure of Ghana's economy today is on this man called Dr. Bawumia. Somebody who said he is the father of digitalization and what have you, cannot understand why we should move to 24 hours. So it tells you again, it is, look, he could have taken some credit, and if Dr. Bawumia were to be smart enough, he could have said, look, what President Mahama is saying is precisely why I created digitalization. Because digitalization is going to enable us to do 24 hours. Because one of the enablers of 24-hour economy is technology. Digitalization is one of the enablers. Because 24-hour economy simply is a deliberate economic strategy. When you have the right measures to be able to make businesses across various sectors of the economy work day and night to increase production, number one, to be able to, reduce delivery times, to create more jobs for people, and also improve people's health. If you have a 24-hour economy, you wouldn't have any need for anybody to work overtime. You will get the best out of workers in a day. If they are supposed to work 6-7 hours, you get the best. Because there's something in economic called diminishing returns. If people work beyond a certain hours, the production that you get out of them is actually going down the hill. So if somebody works up to a certain point, then a new set comes in. Look, when I was coming, I was listening to your program, and somebody was talking about the bank quoting the
Lee Kuan Yew,
the Chinese, the Singapore guy, about global banking is 24 hours.
Yeah.
I spent all my life in banking, in American banks and UK banks. Now, when I was working in an American bank in London, I take over from Asia in the morning when I come to work because of time zones. So I have somebody who is doing my work in Asia that I take over from in the morning in London. Then in the evening when I'm leaving work, Americans come in around 1 o'clock, depending on what the time is. But American market, which is like 7 o'clock in the US or New York, is like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, depending on, So by the time I'm leaving work, after my 7 or 8 hour shift, I hand over to somebody in New York who will be doing my work, who eventually will hand over to someone in Asia. So this has happened globally. Now, what we are trying to do, or what a lot of countries have done in the past, is to transform this globalization to localization. So localization of the 24-hour economy that is already happened globally is what President Mahama is talking about. I get it. I get it 100 miles the moment President Mahama said it. I said, that's it. The man has said it right on the nail. Now, those of us who have seen it in practice, who have experienced this, are supposed to help President Mahama to fashion out this idea so that we can actually, have this 24-hour economy. As I said, you need measures in place for this to work. It's not going to happen by itself. Look, even demand can be induced. This is the type of policy where you need to induce demand to be able to make it. Look, basic economics, and I believe Dr. Bawumia read it. Supply and demand. 24-hour economy will be supplying. Therefore, you will need the induced demand to take that supply. And prices will eventually come down. That's also another part of 24-hour economy. It drives prices down. Look, I see the picture, as I said, 100 miles radius, what President Mahama is talking about. And I can tell you that in addition to all the other policy initiatives that John Mahama will bring and the NDC party will bring, this will be the star one.
The 24-hour economy.
The 24-hour economy. It's a game changer. If you don't get it, you probably will never get it. And the father of digitalization doesn't get it. It surprises me. One of the enablers for 24-hour economy is technology, digitalization. Digitalization itself may create, its own jobs. But it is actually an enabler to 24-hour economy. Look, there are certain jobs which we call essential services. Okay? There are some companies that the nature of their jobs is basically an essential services. Those companies are already in the 24-hour economy.
Okay. Like
but
hospitals.
They are not in 24-hour economy because of economic strategy. They are in 24-hour economy because of essential services that they provide. Therefore, there are laws to compel them to stay in 24-hour economy. That is slightly different. So the essential side is a subset of this bigger global economy. So hospitals, yes, are providing 24 hours because it's an essential service. Other healthcares are doing the same. Fire service, 24-hour economy, because it's an essential service. Which other people can you think of?
I think the police.
the police, law enforcement is an essential service. You see that these ones are laws that governs their operation. You know, remember essential service, they can't even go on strike, they can't do certain things. That is not what John Mahama is talking about. John Mahama is talking about a much bigger picture. So to say that 24 hours is already happening, the hospitals are working 24 hours, these are essential services that forms a subset of the bigger picture of a global economy. And they are also, some of them are also enablers. And then some of them are also going to be things that need to be created for 24-hour economy to work.
Okay.
They are not problems, they are opportunities. So if you get up and somebody say 24 hours economy, how can you do 24 hours when you don't have electricity? How can you do 24 hours when you don't have this? How can you do 24 hours when you don't have a security? These are the opportunities that come with 24 hours. And if those opportunities are grabbed, those opportunities themselves will create jobs. Those are not jobs that are only sitting in the 24-hour economy, but they are jobs that will come on the wings of 24-hour economy. If security is your problem, then you mean the law enforcement will be expanded. Police can recruit more, so we can have what they have in London, police on the beat. That is, they are on the street, all the corners, to make sure that security. If CCTV is limited in this country, that's an opportunity to bring CCTVs in this country and put them everywhere so people could feel safe. That's business. That's production. This is what we are talking about. Small-minded people don't see it. They don't get it. They don't have to want the whole PhD in it. You can still be a small mind if you want a PhD in economics.
I see.
Dr. Bawumia is not a practitioner. He is not a practical economist. He is a theoretical one. I've said this over and over. Maybe people are not paying attention. This John Mahama's idea is something that those of us, especially, who have knowledge of this, should be sleeping in John Mahama's office to make sure that he's able to fashion this out the way it should work. The hopelessness we have in our economy at the moment, as a result of lack of jobs, jobs will be created. If we do 24-hour economy, it means you have 3 shifts. At the moment, you have 2 shifts. So if you have a shift of 1,000, 24-hour economy will triple that to 3,000. There will be other services. People who do wache in the morning to sell will be doing wache in the afternoon and in the evening around the factory places. People build roads at night in the UK, in the United States, in Canada, where Dr. Bawumia was. Roads.
Yeah. Roadworks.
Roadworks. They put on, in fact, that's the best time to build roads. Maybe when there are not too many cars on the street. And those people who are building the roads will eat the same way as those who are working in the morning will eat. So the watching that is done only in the morning will now find its way in the afternoon and in the evening. So all these people are getting jobs. More people now can be put in those areas. And even when you have more people moving around in the economy, there will be less of criminals. Because criminals operate in dark places, quiet places. But when you have less quiet places, the only thing we have to be careful of is to make sure that businesses, especially noisy ones like factories, are not placed closely to residential areas.
Okay.
So that people can also get a sleep. Because if you have machines in some residential area making so much noise and all that. So we need a deliberate industrialization policy, not 1D, 1F. You need to create industrial parks where many factories can be put in that industrial park with its electricity, with its water supply, with its security. for people to be able to work and make a living, so that the hopelessness and the helplessness that we are having in this country, the economy, people are reading economic literature to us. This is what this budget is. Yesterday I said one of your colleagues was telling me, he had my delivery on the floor of Parliament yesterday. I said this budget is a bipolar.
Bipolar?
Yes, because you see, because we are in the IMF program, their numbers are getting better. Okay, I mean, I'm not talking about the quality of the. I'm not talking about the quality of the direction the numbers are facing, but at least we are getting true numbers. In the past, before COVID, we used to get a financial engineered numbers. Now, because of under IMF, they are changing that habit. They have to come and revise their budget by about $1 billion, which is something we told them that, look, this is not the figure, but this time around is correct. But when you read the literature, and the literature, I mean the wording of the budget. So the budget has two sides. The budget has a quantitative side. Those are the numbers which you find in appendix and all that. And there's a qualitative side to the budget. That is the stuff that the finance minister read. Okay. So you see the quantitative side the numbers looks okay, and it tells you that the economy is not doing very well. Then the qualitative side says that we have turned the corner. That's where all those, what is called, flashy language is used. So the quantitative side of the budget does not match the qualitative side. It looks like the two have lives on their own. That's what bipolar is. If you are bipolar, it means that you are not sure which Kweku Ricketts Hagan is showing up in your studio today. Okay. Whether the Kweku Ricketts Hagan who is normally sane or the insane one. That's what this budget is.
So the qualitative side and quantitative side are not speaking the same language?
No, they're not speaking the same language. Because if they are speaking the same language, you cannot present these miserable numbers and say that the economy has turned a corner. And then you get some of their commentators as well saying that, the economy is still not out of the woods yet. And I said, if you say that you have turned a corner and you are still in the woods, then you are lost, basically. Because when you are in the woods, you are going this way. Once you start looking and turning corners, it means you don't know where you are going. So Dr. Bawumia has been a monumental failure, and nobody should allow this man near the presidency. Some of us are talking about this guy quietly. Look, I came to that conclusion when he did a town hall meeting in Kumasi in 2019, just before the COVID.
Okay.
And that is when I wrote to Dr. Bawumia with 230 questions, which is still not been answered. It didn't get maybe as much publicity as it should, like what he did to Misata in terms of. But go take a look. The questions I asked Bawumia will give you some idea into what I think Dr. Bawumia is. He should not be allowed anything near practice because he doesn't get it. If he gets it, and a confirmation is what he has done on this policy of 24-hour economy, which I think is the most brilliant idea that I have ever heard in this country, to be honest with you. I have seen ideas, well, probably, in Nkrumah when all of us were either not born or young. But in terms of the modern economy, that's the direction we need to be going. I do agree we need to go digitalization and all that. But the digitalization, it's a mouthful. It's an enabler to a 24-hour economy. So if you create a machine and you don't know what the machine is to be used for, then you are completely useless.
Well, I have read lots of descriptions of this budget. Kweku Ricketts Hagan has
I've always said that it's a dysfunctional budget. It is a dysfunctional budget because the budget does not capture our external debt in terms of debt servicing. We are not paying. Look, we owe the Chinese, I've said this before, we owe the Chinese 1.9 billion. We are not paying dollars. We owe the Paris Club 2 billion. We are not paying dollars. We owe the non-Paris Club 3.8 billion. We are not paying. We owe the multilaterals, the IMF, World Bank, 8.8 billion. We are not paying. We have stopped paying our external debt. We owe Frank Templeton, if you remember him, 2.25 billion. We are not paying. Eurobond, we owe them 14.9 billion US dollars. We are not paying. We are not paying our external debt. They tell us they are paying a little bit of the multilateral. When I check in the budget, almost 95% of our debt servicing is all for domestic debt servicing. So about less than $1 billion is paying for some other things. But I think with the IMF, before they can give you the new facility, they want to make sure that what you owe them before, at least you are paying. So maybe that's where we are putting some money there so we can get the IMF money.
Okay.
But we are now number one in terms of debt hierarchy with the IMF. We owe more money to the IMF than any African country. That's our status now.
No.
We are not paying all this. And we are in the budget. We have estimated that we spend about 35 billion in paying domestic debt servicing. So let's assume that you use an equal amount. Domestic and the external debt is slightly higher. So let's imagine let's just for argument's sake, we will need to spend about 40 billion. If you put 40 billion in this budget, which we are not paying, your deficit will change. That's why this budget is dysfunctional. So this budget does not give you the true picture of Ghana's economy, the status of the economy now. It is dysfunctional. That is why somebody will say you've turned a corner. You owe people, your debtors, you are not your creditors. You are not paying them, and you say you've turned a corner. It's like a man who manages his household. He knows how much salary he gets. He knows his expenses. He owes savings and loans money, but he decides not to. He drinks 4 bottles of beer a week to be moderate. 4 bottles of beer a week. Now, all of a sudden, when you stop paying his savings and loans, he's got an extra money to get an extra 4 bottles. So he's drinking 8 bottles a week, sitting in the beer bar telling you he has turned the corner. Because the people sitting at the bar knows him that he drinks 4. And they say, oh, Sana, why are you, I don't know if you drink, but why are you drinking 8 bottles a beer now? Because he never used to afford, more than 4. And he tells you, I've turned the corner. So I'm now well off. But he doesn't tell you that he has stopped paying his savings and loans. So this budget will change our deficit. If we put in the external debt repayment, it will change our deficit. It will change our primary balance. It will change our growth. It will change our fiscal space. It will change our inflation. Pretty much everything in this budget will be changed. This is an economic garbage. And as a handing over note, which this is their last budget. Anybody who takes this budget to be the gospel truth of Ghana's economy will have a serious problem in managing Ghana's economy. This is not the true picture of Ghana's economy today. We owe about 30 billion US dollars, which translates to about 350 billion Ghana cedis, which we are not servicing since December of last year. In the budget, there's only one line, small line, that says that we are preparing to go and negotiate with our external creditors. And you know why they are not able to do that? Because the cavalier attitude and the bullying attitude that they used in doing the domestic debt, by forcing pension holders and all that to come in and all that, they can't go and do that rubbish with these seasoned negotiators. I have worked with some of these people, the JP Morgans, the Goldman Sachs, the Rothschild, and I know their mindsets. They're not going to take this rubbish from us, coming to negotiate and do a haircut and all that. And by not paying, there's a value, value for money. I mean, but time value for money. Any debt you are not paying, The interest you are not paying, you will be paying an interest on that interest. And if you are not able to do it, eventually they trigger the insurance on your bond. And you are finished. It's like your car insurance. You get an accident and you ask the insurance to pay. Your premiums will go through the roof. This is what is likely to happen to us. Don't be fooled by this budget. This budget is empty, as Honorable Atufosun describes it. It's uninspiring, as many people have said. And now I'm telling you, it's dysfunctional and a distorted budget, because it doesn't give you the true picture of the economic state of or the state of the economy in Ghana. And somebody is coming up with a brilliant idea of a 24-hour economy. You just sit there and unintellectually poo-poo that idea. And you say you are the father of digitalization. What was digitalization created for? Is to enable economy to function effectively and efficiently. And 24-hour economy in the state that we are in is what is needed. Ghana owes almost about 60 billion United States dollars, much close to our GDP. Last year, 2022, debt to GDP was 103%, which means that our liabilities are more than our assets as a country. That's a bankrupt state. Because we still produce, we still get gold, we still get this, we are still endowed with minerals and all that. We are able to be as the accountant will say, a going concern. But this country is technically bankrupt. And the most serious thing about it is that we don't have a clue of how to get out, or the government doesn't, or how to get out of this situation. And people who are visionary thinking, look, President Mahama has got the opportunity to be president before. He's also got the opportunity to sit back, to look at his own performance when he was a vice president. And he's had an opportunity to look at the performance of this government for the last 7 to 8 years. He has learned something. And I'm sure night and day, he's been going through his mind on what he can do to salvage the situation and correct some of the things that probably he himself maybe thought he could have done better. And such a man comes up with this idea, which is not from Mars or Jupiter, but is being practiced elsewhere in the world. The people who go and ask them to give us money to support our budget and to, when we are in trouble, and go and borrow from, it's the 24-hour economy that is giving them money to enable them support us. And you said 24 hours is a bad idea. So it means that you just want to continue to be a dependent economy on other people who are implementing strategic economic policies and have deliberate measures to make sure that that policy works. And whatever the challenges are, they see them as an opportunity and use those opportunities to create more jobs and enable us to make the thing work. And you said that, a chopper. Look, maybe more choppers will do 24 hours because people will be working who need to eat. Food is actually an essential service. Yeah. That's another thing people don't know. Food is an essential service. So more of it and get us out of. And be able to, what we need is in this country is to expand our GDP in dollar terms, in real terms, to be able to be bigger than our debts. Not by telling us that you are creating a 1 trillion CD economy, so they should applaud for you. I mean, 1 CD trillion economy doesn't mean anything.
I see. We'll come back to that concept. Well, I still have in studio Honorable Kweku George Ricketts Hagan, who is Member of Parliament for Cape Coast South. He says the budget is bipolar. That's an interesting description anyway. Furniture City said I should tell you there's Black Friday sale at Furniture City from now to Sunday, the moment we are speaking, to Sunday, 26th November. They are giving you 30% off every furniture you buy from Furniture City. It's not selected. Every furniture you buy from Furniture City. Yes, Furniture City is offering 30% of all furniture items. Furniture City specializes in a wide range of furniture such as office, sofa, bedroom, cabinets, restaurant, church, hospital, kitchen, garden, pool or beach, event furniture, and many more. Locate Furniture City off the main Sprinters Road, Accra, or call 0244 213333 or 0540 314948. Remember, it's 30% of all furniture at Furniture City. Furniture City, home of quality furniture. And also, don't forget that Betika's invitation is for you to, because they're telling you that's the season. You know how the season is going so far. They'll give you a whopping 175 Aquaba bonus from them to bet on your favorite teams or play your favorite virtual and casino games when you register. Just go to betika.com or dial *263# on a YAM phone to register and play. Terms and conditions apply. So be a member of the Betika family. And of course, if it has to be paint, make sure it's Savannah Paint. They're also proud to be associated with this program. Savannah Paint, we all must paint some. We have to take a break, my last break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Honorable Kweku George Ricketts Hagan.
It's that time of the year again for the world to focus on Ghana for Africa's biggest cultural expose. Get ready to be captivated by the magic of fashion and music as 1957 Events presents Africa's biggest cultural expose in the Gold Coast city of Accra, Ghana. Rhythms on the Runway, the Aqua Edition. Saturday, 2nd December 2023. Live from the World Trade Center, Accra. Rates 200 cedis standard and 400 cedis premium. Join us as we witness a world where fashion and music are more than just clothing and sound, but an expression of artistry, innovation, and creativity. Let the magic of fashion and music transport you to a world of glamour and inspiration at Rhythms on the Runway, the Aqua Edition. Rhythms on the Runway is a 1957 event. Media partner, Radio Gold.
Are you ready to conquer the day with the right energy? Drango! Introducing Drango Energy Drink, your ultimate source of vitality. Whether you're battling fatigue, seeking a boost, or savoring a refreshing energy kick, Drango is your answer. Drango! Featuring an iconic tiger symbol, Drango is the go-to choice for athletes, drivers, and all active go-getters. What sets Drango apart is our secret formula. A unique blend of vitamins B3, B5, B6, B12, all packed in a silver sporty bottle. Drango Energy Drink keeps you going. Drango! No fears, no limits.
Excessive drinking can be detrimental to health. Not recommended. Persons under 18 years, lactating mothers, pregnant women, and people sensitive to caffeine. This advert is FDA approved.
Hey, Ma, the way you're always getting alerts these days, I won't be surprised to hear that you have gotten a Momo for Business account by my next visit.
Oh, I'm already on Momo for Business.
Since when?
Since. Now, it's easy to apply for a merchant SIM. All you need is a registered MTN number, your business certificate, your Ghana card, and you are good to go.
Sir.
You think you are the only one who knows what's up, eh? Look, I just dialed *5051#, selected register, and the region I was requesting the SIM from, and waited for my SMS with my reference number. You can even go online at momomerchantapplication.mtn.com.gh and complete the details for an even better experience.
Hey, Grandma Momo.
Sign up for Momo for Business the easy and simple way. Just visit momomerchantapplication.mtn.com.gh or dial *5051# and follow the prompts and be on your way to owning a Momo business account today for free. MTN.
Masa, turning tami ento bien. Madam, mame gobe 5 cedis.
No, me dofo. Ene koko sing.
Koko 3 cedis. Hey, madam, Mr. 5 cedis.
Mama, we are monsieur. Ahadie, yejini bin. Mete betika. Me
Season because at Betica, the winning never stops. We are giving you a triple Aquaba bonus when you sign up. The biggest odds, amazing offers such as boosted odds, free bets on Mondays and Thursday, and so much more. Just go to betica.com or dial *263# on your jam phone to place your bet.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below age 18. Gaming can be addictive.
Well, thank you very much for staying tuned to your power station, Radio Gold 90.5 FM. Let me do, before I do a few messages, first of all, there's a message from MTN talking about Momo. Did you know that MTN Momo now has an app? Yes, MTN Momo has a brand new app specially designed to make your Momo experience easier, convenient, and faster. Just download the Momo app on Play Store or App Store on your smartphone and look out for the blue and yellow icon. It's that simple. Momo app allows you to view your statement, pay bills, and so much more. Use the app for your Momo transactions and enjoy a 100% bonus when you recharge using the Momo app. So go on, download the Momo app now and start transacting with a flex at no data cost. Just Momo it everywhere you go. Evan Nicholas Lagoda says the 24-hour economy proposed by JM has taken the MPP off guard and dazed them. See how Bawumia is struggling. Kofi Ira, hi Sana. Road resurfacing in the city of London is done at night. There's Alexa Dampia. Sana, I am doing my master's in Germany. I go to university in the daytime and go to work in the night. Working from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. in morning. I get home 1:40, sleep up to 5 a.m. Then I start another morning work from 5:30 to 7 in the morning. Then I go for lectures at 10 a.m. So this is an example of a 24-hour economy. I always thought saying the vice president is in panic mode. Mama should ignore and carry on with his sharing his ideas. And a good morning to Eric Yao. Mr. Eric Yao says, and a good morning to you and the team. Good to see Honorable Ricketts. My regards to him. As Auntie Danny is also joining us. This one says, please, textile factories were in the 1960s through the 1980s did this work. Workforce was over 7,000 per factory. JDM, thanks. Uncle Bosco sent that. Thank you very much, Uncle Bosco, for sending that message. And it seems, from what I'm reading, it looks like Ghana used to this was even a practice in Ghana at some point. Pisco writes, Bawumia'S reaction to 24-hour economy amounts to the same way President Kufuor's father and his cronies behaved during the time Kwame Nkrumah called for independence now. But they rejected this idea that Ghana was not ready for independence. Kwame Nkrumah shamed them and led the masses to get independence to mother Ghana. Mahama should take a cue from the above. Thank you. That's from Pisco, who sent us that one. Alasan Sese in Zenu Central is also joining us. Dr. Bawumia is a confused man of himself who is quick to condemn the 24-hour economy to describing the policy a bad idea, and again said that the 24-hour economy is already working. Something that's bad and already exists. Why don't we abolish it if we believe it's a bad idea? No wonder our economy is at where it is today under Bawumia'S watch as the economic management leader. Peter in the UK says, Charlie, I'm at Amsterdam Airport, just about boarding flight back to the UK. And guess what? I've just booked a night shift to work tonight because I need some quick cash for more holidays next weekend. Of course, the wages will be paid next week, Friday. This is the benefit of 24-hour economy. You don't wait to get paid by the end of the month, but by the end of the following week. Peter sent that from the UK. Peter has quite a plan. Interesting from Peter, who is joining us from the UK. Let me read. This is, okay. This Mr. Raymond. Okay, this is Raymond Acha. Join us. Says, hi, Sana. Dr. Bawumia did not create digitalization, and neither is he the father of digitalization. The concept of digitalization began before Dr. Bawumia joined the Bank of Ghana. One can say he pursued and broadened the boundaries of digitalization as vice president. What is the point of this government spending over $15 million to develop an app that duplicates what was free Google Map service, only to go back to Google to purchase map coordinates for the app they spent $50 million on? This is the most expensive app that was ever developed. That's coming from Raymond Acha. Jovi says, good morning. Free Nancy, please tell Bawumia, the internationally acclaimed toilet builder, that even his toilets will do 24 hours here. Interesting. And then let me end with Kofi Kwachu says, Dr. Bawumia said you cannot legislate for 24-hour economy. Wrong. You can legislate. The legislation is not to compel businesses to trade 24 hours, but rather to legislate to remove impertinent that prevent businesses from trading 24 hours. For instance, the law on the sale of alcohol was changed to allow businesses to sell alcohol 24 hours. The ban on Sunday trading was changed to allowing for some trading on Sundays. That is in the UK. I'm not clear on whether he says I should read this to you, but he says that I should. So this is Dr. Percy, and that's to Honorable Ricketts Hagan. Dr. Percy says I should tell you, the NDC is in error, using the MPP's euphemisms to hide the fact of theft of the investment and savings of working Ghanaians. The so-called DDEP and haircuts are pure theft or stealing. To connect to the man in the street, that is the lingo they should be using. I don't know if I was supposed to read this or not. No, it was not so clear anyway. But once again, well, in fact, Honorable George Kweku Ricketts Hagan is in studio with me. We've been having this discussion for some time now. And one of the things that, in fact, in this budget that they've drawn a lot of attention to is the 1 trillion economy. Now, you said that somewhere, was it last year, they were doing over 100% in terms of debt to GDP.
Yeah.
Now, currently, they said their debt has come down slightly. And if you compare it to the 1 trillion that they are targeting, the debt to GDP, hopefully, will reduce further. But I'm wondering, what do you think about the 1 trillion, first of all?
Well, first of all, if you are paying, you are servicing your debt externally. It's obviously going to affect your economy and going to affect your growth.
Okay.
So you probably will not be achieving that. But let's examine this 1 trillion thing. I mean, eventually, Ghana in cedi terms will get to 1 trillion. Especially when the money continues to devalue. Because you know that some of our earnings and all that are in foreign exchange.
Okay.
So if your currency is devalued, then obviously the cedi equivalent of those earnings will be much bigger in cedi terms.
Okay.
So it is very easy for your cedi to be growing, even when your economy is not growing, but your exchange rate is depreciating.
Okay.
Because what I'm basically trying to say is that you export this for, let's say, $20. Now, when that comes back in payment in your economy, that's dollars. When you convert that dollars based on, say, an exchange rate of 10 to the dollar, you get about 200. You get about 200, Ghana cedis.
Okay.
Now, when your cedi depreciates further, and now you are using 20 Ghana cedis to the dollar. This same thing that costs 20, when you sell it and you get the money, and the value of this now will be 400, so it will double. Therefore, if that feeds into your GDP will be bigger in cedi terms. But when you put your GDP in dollar terms,
it's much more smaller.
It's much smaller.
Oh, okay.
And you would not have realized any significant move from, say, last year to this year in dollar terms, in terms of your growth. But there will be a significant growth in cedi terms because of exchange rate.
So it's also a factor of one of the factors is the depreciation.
It's the depreciation.
Okay.
Basically, the more depreciated your currency is, the more cedis you will get as an equivalent to any dollar
you bring
income.
So it doesn't necessarily say that your economy has grown significantly.
No.
It could just be a little, maybe a 0.1, a 0.2, but
there would have been some growth, obviously. But so if you want to do a comparison and you want to see how your economy has grown, do it in what is called real terms, not in nominal terms.
Okay. How is that done?
It means that you have to strip out things like inflation and all those to get a real picture, because inflation and all those things, they are factors. You know, you may be getting a 5,000 a month salary. In nominal terms, you are holding 5,000, but in real terms and purchasing power, you are holding less than 5,000 can purchase.
Okay.
Because as inflation goes higher, your prices of goods in your economy are much higher. Therefore, what your 5,000 could buy for you yesterday might not be able to do that. But you would think that you are earning 5,000. But in real terms, you don't actually have 5,000. So that's how you have to look at it. The other thing is also to do with rebasing. We do two rebasing, one in GDP and one in inflation.
Okay.
What rebasing basically means is that you change what is called the year base of how you calculate your economy. What happens is that you can have an economy for 10 years and you've been measuring a certain GDP of that economy. But in retrospect, when you look back in the last 10 years, you will then realize that there were certain sectors of your economy that you were not capturing. One of the areas could be the digital economy. That people are doing activities and earning money that contributes your GDP, but you are not capturing it because your GDP is not set up to capture it. You can then go back and see when that thing happened. You realize that maybe it happened in the last 10 years, in the last 5 years, or in the first 5 years or in the last 5 years. So then you decide that you are going to change the base. The base is where you pick your economic calculation from to reflect those changes that happened in your economy in the last 10 years that you did not capture.
Okay.
So if today you capture all those things you did not capture and you add it, you add it to your GDP today, your GDP would have grown without you adding any new production other than captured production.
Okay.
So when the rebasing was done, the last rebasing was done in 2018, Ghana's economy expanded by 30% as a result of rebasing. This is actually one of the questions I gave to Dr. Bawumia. If you look through my questions, I gave to Dr. Bawumia in 2019, that the economic growth that we are experiencing at that time was not as a result of any increased production in the economy, but it's a result of captured production.
Okay. That was the rebasing.
That was the rebasing. Okay. So I asked him this question way back in, and it is the same thing that they are talking about today. So these two things, rebasing has obviously grown the economy. It's not a bad thing because it's been captured.
Okay.
But it will not be attributed to the current government.
Okay.
Because we changed the rebasing from 2006, the base year, to 2010 in the 2018 rebasing. Therefore, the growth or the production that we had captured, which we did not in the past, has nothing to do with this current government. But it could be to do with Kufuor and Mills and Mahama. So, if you want to see how the economy has really performed, you do a real GDP, which, as I said, takes into account inflation, interest rate, etc. Or you dollarize your economy and look at it in dollar terms, because fortunately dollar does not move as much as cedi does, because cedi is the one that devalues. What you can use a dollar for in the UK today is probably what you could use a dollar for in the UK last year or last 2 years.
Okay.
But that same dollar will not do for you in Ghana what it did for you last year because of exchange rates. So that argument of your nominal figure, apart from the fact that it is approaching 1 trillion it really doesn't make any economic sense in measuring how well you have done, because the minister was trying to use that as a performance measure on how they have done, and it's a useless performance measure in its raw state.
Okay.
That's what it is. It's like you are holding a raw material that is supposed to be used for some finished product. That raw material as a stand does not give you that finished product. So it's useless unless it is a value is added to it. And value addition is to strip off inflation and other things, or you dollarize it. No, we don't live in a dollar economy, but that is what will give you a proper picture for comparison.
Because if you're doing even within the current exchange rate terms, if you do 1 trillion now, it's less than 100 billion.
Yeah.
$100 billion.
Absolutely.
Which is no significant growth.
Exactly.
See. But is there anything in this budget that excites you? Because you've already, but you said that this budget has a handing over note, and this is the last budget that's supposed to guide any new administration coming in. You're saying that as a handing over note, it's not fit for purpose.
Well, it is absolutely not fit for purpose. As I said, is a basically economic garbage, because it doesn't give you the full picture. So if you take this as a handing over note, let's just say that NDC comes to power tomorrow and takes this as a handing over note. This is not the economy you'll be presiding over, because it's not a true reflection. It's not paying your external debt. So you cannot sit down and assume that the revenues you are earning, doing whatever those revenues are doing, is enough for you, or you've turned a corner.
Okay.
Because there is an aspect of your expenditure which you are not servicing. And if you should, your deficit will be much higher. And what does deficit mean? It means you will have to borrow. There's no other way to finance a deficit than to borrow the money. Because your revenue captures all possible avenues of revenue you can marshal.
Okay.
That's your revenue, your total revenue.
So in order to get a clear picture, you have to look at so how much would I be spending on debt servicing in total? Yes. So if I was spending,
you'll be spending about 40 billion.
Okay.
So if your deficit is 50 billion in nominal terms, add 40 billion to it. It means your deficit is 90. Unless you can increase your revenue somewhere to take care of that. So the deficit is not 50 billion, it is 90 in nominal terms. Therefore, if you translate that in real terms, you will not get the deficit numbers that they are talking about. It will be much higher.
But is it not then also worrying that you have a budget which is not catering for debt servicing, external debt servicing, but you're still doing 50 billion?
Extremely worrying.
You have
extremely
to find 50
worrying, because you see,
billion.
Certain things need to be alarming to you for you to address the situation in your own life. Sometimes you need something to shock you, to change your ways. But if you are suppressing what will shock you, you will continue to do what you are doing, thinking that you get a different result.
Okay.
50 billion is alarming, because the reason why 50 billion is alarming, if you're a finance minister, is that if Parliament will approve the budget for you, but Parliament does not approve budget for you by giving you money.
Okay.
Parliament approves budget for you to go and look for the money. So this 50 billion is the Ministry of Finance that needs to go and look for this money. Now, in an economy where external borrowing windows are shut, so it means you can't borrow from the global market or the capital market, because that has been shut. So you've got to come back to domestic to borrow from domestic body if nobody is going to give you money. Now, that means that interest rates are going to skyrocket.
Okay.
Because if you are bringing all these 50 million and take it from home, it means that the banks will have no other monies to give to businesses to expand or grow their businesses to be able to create jobs. Because government would have crowded out the borrowing space. And banks will be more interested in lending money to government. Though these days, government was supposed to be risk-free, but these days Ghana government is an exceptional government. It's not a risk-free government again. If you're a bond holder or a pension bond holder. So it means that all these 50 billion, if most of it will have to come from Ghana's economy, apart from what the IMF and stuff multilaterals are giving us, then it means that an individual, an entrepreneur, a business that want money to put in their business will find it very difficult to get money because government will be siphoning all the money to finance a deficit.
Okay.
Banks will become lazy because it's easier to give your money to government, which is still relatively risk-free, than to give it to somebody.
Even in the current circumstances, it's still better.
Yes. Well, we have nowhere to go, basically. Our government is the Republic of Ghana government that we have at the moment. But we are hoping that, we've got about a year to go in the election.
Yeah.
Future government, as I said, government is a going concern. Future government will honor. This is the hope of the pension and the bond holders, that the future government will probably honor. Maybe the haircut will somewhere along the line stop.
Okay.
So this is the hope. I mean, we have hope in a hopeless government. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yes, and that's where I was coming to. So, knowing all this, if Parliament goes ahead to approve this budget, would Parliament then not essentially be endorsing recklessness, clear mismanagement? Because you are a member of that Parliament. There are many of your colleagues who I can point to who are people who spent their entire life in finance, who should know better and who should perhaps be much more reluctant in approving something like this. So if you go ahead and approve it, would you not be approving, one, the recklessness, the mismanagement, and can we not say you are perhaps an accomplice in where we are?
Unfortunately, we've been doing that for 7 years. And why is that? Because of the very nature of our parliament.
Okay.
In fact, this is the best parliament, though it has its challenges, but it's the best parliament we've ever had. Because in all parliaments, you tend to have the majority, and they say minority will have their say, and majority will have their way. So in the end, the budget gets passed by the majority. Doesn't matter how we scream and kick. So, not that certain things have not been said, not that certain challenges have not been made, like we are doing now in the debate that's going on in Parliament. We are shouting and screaming on top of our voices to a government that is not listening.
Okay.
And unfortunately, it's not that we are not doing our work, but that we are doing our work with our hands tied behind our backs. Because at the end of the day, you will talk and talk and talk and talk. The budget will approve, even in a hung parliament, by one vote, which they have.
I see.
You have a finance minister who has not got a listening ear and thinks he knows everything, but actually knows nothing. You have a wastegate, economic wastegate, who does not know whether he's a technology expert or he's an economic expert. And you, at the end of the day, this budget will be approved. Because if we don't approve this budget, this country cannot spend in January. Because our financial year, when it comes to an end, you need to be able to create some budget. That's why we read budget in November, not in January. Because the budget cycle will end in December 31st. 1st January, this government can only spend if there's a budget in place. That's why we are doing this. So, yes, to an extent, the structure of even the parliament, the idea that, and these are long-term things we need to look at, the idea that the executive is in our midst in parliament itself is problematic.
Okay.
Because their interest is not aligned to the parliamentary interest of providing an oversight or a supervisory role of the executive. That people have been appointed to certain positions at the pleasure of the president. Therefore, if they do otherwise in parliament, it could jeopardize their position as an executive.
Okay.
So until all those issues are addressed, where as opposition, a responsible opposition, we can get in the buy-in of the majority,
okay,
which we don't usually get, because the priorities of the majority is different from the priorities of the minority. Whether this budget is garbage or not, they have been instructed to pass the budget, and you dare not go against the budget. I mean, there are consequences, and they know it.
Especially going into the primary period.
Yeah, the president has the executive powers. They can descend on you even in your constituency and get rid of you for no reason. They have the money, the muscles, and unfortunately, the shameful nature of our democracy now, when it comes to elections, where it's been monetized, and that at least even be able to push through good ideas for your constituents to vote for you, you will have to push those ideas with something. So somebody will pay you to destroy you. Even those who are going to do you good will also have to pay you to do you good. That's the democracy we live in at the moment.
I see.
Because if you have good ideas and you don't have the muscles to push those good ideas, bad ideas will basically overcome good ones.
Okay. But if you were doing a value judgment to make a decision on this budget, if this was up to you, what do you think should happen to this budget?
Well, I think the budget should go back and revise expenditure down.
Go back and revise expenditure.
That the expenditure of 226 billion is too much for an economy that anticipates to raise 176 billion that it will not get.
176 billion that it will not get.
That's supposed to be the projected revenue. The government is projecting they're going to raise 176 billion.
And you said they will not get.
They will not get.
Why? Why do you say so?
Well, the history is there. Dr. Bawumia can show you the data. He just can't interpret it. The history is there that we have not been able to meet the revenue projections that we make with all the enhanced revenue measures that we put in place. There are still leakages in our economy. The net is not wide enough to bring everybody in. We are overburdening people we are already taxing. We have nuisance taxes that becomes counterproductive, like the e-levies and all that. So in the end, the revenue you project, and this government tout itself and celebrate on projections rather than on realized. So like 1 trillion is a projected stuff, but they're already celebrating it. So until we look at that, I mean, at the moment, we know that we want our revenues to be around 16% of GDP. That is what our peers, between 16 to 18, 20. That's what our peers are doing. We normally try to project 16, but we usually end up with 13, as we will do with last year's revenue. So that clearly tells you that the measures we put in place or the projections that we put in place are not either done properly or it's a deliberate attempt to suppress your deficit. You can project for you to be able to have a bigger expenditure, to spend money, waste money. You also have to project a revenue that is bigger to make it look as if you can at least fund some of the things you have in the expenditure. So when your deficit is much smaller, then people will say, oh, we will do 4% deficit. That's not too bad. But if you give a realistic revenue of what you can achieve, your deficit will probably be 12%, as we did in the COVID period.
So you're suggesting that revenue targets are set by this government as a justification for high expenditure. That's all.
Yes. So if you want to be able to be an effective parliament, and we have the laws to do that, we have a deficit provision in the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which says that our deficit should not be more than 5%, for instance. Then it means that if we examine our revenue very well, we should be able to say that you've got to convince us that you'll be able to get this revenue because your history doesn't suggest so.
Okay.
So on what basis are you telling us are you going to be doing different that is telling you that you're going to get this revenue? So please, this revenue is not possible. The parliament will need to have a much stronger economic committee. You know, we have a finance committee that is supposed to do both. But our finance committee over the years, and it's no fault of the current committee, has become a committee just for approving loans. The finance committee over the years, and not the fault of the current people, has become a place where loans are approved.
Okay.
There's no economic impact analysis done there. And I think we are trying to cure this with our new standing orders.
Okay.
That Parliament needs to have a committee that is responsible for measuring the economic impact of government policies.
Okay.
To know whether those policies are working or not working. If you say that one district, one factory has built 169 factories and created 169,000 employment, can you tell us how much government has supported? Because it's being driven by the private sector. Government doesn't give direct money to the private sector, but it helps in collateralizing the facilities that you can get from banks. Okay. So it means that the government has a contingent liability risk that if those loans are not paid by these companies, they will become the debt of the government.
Okay.
Therefore, the government has a responsibility to ensure that these monies, whether given direct or indirectly to these companies who have created this, can say that we gave you this out. If we give for every 1 million that we give you, you must create 100 jobs.
Okay.
Therefore, if you are not capable of creating 100 jobs, you cannot be entitled to 1 million.
I see.
Then it has to be done in pro rata. Then those jobs that you create as a result of the 1D, 1F policy should be measured by Parliament through an economic impact analysis. All these things are not being done. That is why 1D, 1F has failed. That is why planting for food and jobs has failed. I've mentioned to you before that Ghana is the only country where the more food we plant, the less we harvest.
Yeah. Well,
because there's no impact analysis.
Honorable, we are out of time, but thank you. Thank you very much.
Ghana's problems need more time.
A lot more time. I'm grateful to you. We're grateful that you passed by. Yeah.
My pleasure.
That's Honorable Member of Parliament for Cape Coast South, Honorable George Kweku Ricketts Hagan. Lawyer will take his hand. And of course, today is the birthday of Professor Nana
Yes, my auntie.
Oh, she's your auntie?
Happy birthday. It's my fancy auntie. We come from Cape Coast. So, yes, and I actually call her auntie.
Okay.
Yeah, auntie professor.
Yeah.
yeah, I've known her for years. So.
That's great.
Yeah, before he came into this business called politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's her birthday today. Yeah.
Happy birthday to her.
Yeah.
Bipolar